Good morning, Daniel. How you doing? You well?
Morning, how are you?
I'm good, brother. Blessed, always, in always.
Good,
Can't complain. Well, I could, but no one cares. You know, it is what it is. No, I'm blessed. I'm blessed. All good, man. We're here to talk about Borders, my
Right.
friend, which is a fresh, new six-part series,
Mhm.
which is going to be available to the world soon. You must be really proud of this. You're a writer, creator, and it's a really really fresh piece of work, my brother. Tell me all about it. Tell me about the process of bringing it together. When did you write this? When did you create this?
Okay, so timelines are always quite tricky with these things because they always kind of span over quite a few years. But I'd want to say like probably about 3 years in the making, and it was all based on an article I was shown, which was about five young black boys from East London who were given scholarships to rugby private school. And when I read the article, there was like so many similarities about my experience when I went to university. So I didn't go to private school or anything like that, but the university I went to, it was predominantly white, predominantly middle class, and some of the challenges that I was up against resonated with the piece. The piece resonated with me, and I just thought that it was great grounds for writing a TV show around it. I always tend to write through the medium of comedy, so I knew that there was so much material that I could mine from this, so much comedy that I could mine from it, but also a lot of drama as well that could really like pack a punch and kind of show what institutions like this in Britain really look like. So that was kind of the starting point, and then I just kind of built it from there. And then in terms of the characters, I really wanted to, similar to myself and some of the few black faces at my university, we all approached our experience at university in different ways, and I kind of wanted to kind of reflect that on screen. So when you watch it, you have five very different characters. You have one that rebels against the system, and you get one that's trying to exploit the system, and one that's trying to change the system, and one that's trying to be the system. So I wanted to get like different viewpoints on it really, and show how they all kind of navigate their way through it, and that there's no right or wrong way. They will always come against challenges. So that was kind of, yeah, that was a kind of starting process. And then it was with the BBC. They greenlit it, and then we went about grabbing some more writers to help build the world and write some of the episodes as well. And then we got a finished product.
Just set the scene for those who are like, what's he talking about? Like, just set the scene about how these five individuals. Where are they? Where did they come
Yeah.
from? What's the walk of life?
So Borders is about five young black underprivileged kids from London who are given scholarships to a boarding school called St. Gilbert's. And it's a bit of a trade-off. The school itself had been under the spotlight because of some of the things that their students had been doing that kind of went viral, and now they're trying to revamp their image. So they bring in these five young black kids to try and revamp their image, but there's a certain clash of cultures and fish out of water aspect to it, as it's not as simple as just putting a bunch of black kids into this very white institution and thinking that everything will be a-okay. So it's got a serious tone, but within it, there's lots of comedy in the sense that it's a typical fish out of water experience. But it's also just about young people trying to find themselves and their identity, and chasing love interests, and just trying to survive. And so it's kind of like a fish out of water culture clash kind of show with all these institutions and it's something I say all the time, in which, institutional racism is very specific, and sometimes you can't point it out as easily as some other forms of racism. Do you know what I mean? You can quite easily point out someone driving around across in a white van shouting something at you. It's very black and white, but institutional racism is much more difficult. And so when it came to like writing the piece and people performing the pieces and stuff like that, it was a very, it was a it was a tricky balance to kind of get right, but I think we were able to achieve it because we had a really great director, Toshia Hilton, and she was, we made sure that the writers' room and the writers of the episodes, they were black. The director, the first block director, was black, and I think it was because what was so important is to make sure that sometimes you can't always intellectualize these things. It's just an experience and it's a feeling, and those were a lot of the conversations that we were having in the writers' room, and those were the conversations I was having with my director as well. So it was a very difficult balance to kind of get, but I feel like we got there. And so some of it was just like, it was just conversations. We'd have conversations. I'd have conversations with the cast as well on the phone as we were writing stuff. We were rewriting stuff. We would have like massive arguments in the writer's room because it's like, it's an experience. And it was one of those things that we had to make sure that we got right. And I think in the end, I felt that we did. And I think it's hearing the response from those who have seen like, we've done previews and screenings and stuff. Hearing people's response to that, they really get it. They kind of get what we were trying to achieve, and it's right within the piece. It's difficult. There's certain characters where you're like, well, yeah, you're a bit shady, but there's certain ones that make very bad decisions, but you wouldn't necessarily say that they were bad people, and that's because sometimes it's just the institution. The institution exists, and it's so deep rooted within everything that it means that it's not down to the individual. It's just how the institution works.
You did well, to find that balance, man. So appreciate you for that. You played the role of Gus.
Yeah.
Right. Mentorship. Speak on that, because that's something that I thought you delivered well, just the value that's gleaned from that. So speak on incorporating that element of it in it, and you playing the role itself, having kind of, written, created, been a part of this whole process, and then having to deliver on screen. It's a lot. You're wearing a lot of caps there, there's so much responsibility.
Yeah. I mean, funnily enough, when we were in early development, I wasn't actually planning to be in it. I very much had my writer's hat on at the time, but a few people just assumed that I was going to play Gus, and I think it's because I always like squeeze myself into my shows. So that's probably why they just assumed that I'd probably squeeze myself somewhere. And as I couldn't play one of the children, I probably had to play Gus. But I'm so glad I did, because he was like in the development of the writer's room. We saw, I wrote a pilot episode and he was like a lovely introduction, but as the series goes on, you kind of see a few more sides of him. And it was a really interesting character to write and to play, because I feel, growing up, me and a lot of my friends, we didn't really have strong black male role models. So it was really like interesting character to write in that sense. I mean, my family, it was mainly strong black women that brought us all up. So I didn't have many male role models. So it was quite lovely to kind of have that kind of character, and especially because that main dynamic, especially Gus has a relationship with Jaheem, who has an absent father as well. Seeing that relationship was really, really beautiful, and playing with that relationship was really, really beautiful. And we don't tend to see that relationship so often on screen as well. So that was really lovely to kind of delve into as a writer, and delve into as a performer as well.
last couple, because I know you're a busy man, right? In terms of the cast itself, you've mentioned, how good they were and how able they were to deliver your vision. Speak about the casting process. Was that easy? Because I thought they were absolutely fantastic and had bright futures ahead of them, all of them.
Yeah, I know. We were so fortunate, so fortunate. So we had a casting director, Rosalie Clayton, who I've known for years, but as a performer, and I knew she's very good because she knows how to find like raw talent and people who can give like naturalistic performances. Do you know what I mean? So even though there's big comedy moments in the show, realism was always the thing that I wanted to push. And yeah, she did a great job. She kind of she went through the usual avenues, but she also just kind of went through social media and stuff like that. So performers like Seku, who plays Toby, I think he was found on Twitter or one of the social media platforms, and he just applied, came in, auditioned, and he was fantastic. And then we did that the dynamic between the five of them is so important. So I remember whilst they were auditioning and doing chemistry reads, where they basically read together, in between takes, Rosalie would just kind of leave the camera rolling. And she was just like, I'm just going to leave it rolling. But the reason why she was doing that is because she wanted us to see how they just interacted, not only whilst they were performing, but when they weren't performing. And it really helped because we saw their dynamic and they got on so well. And that really shines on screen. It really, really shines on screen. So yeah, so it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was I'm not the casting director, so it wasn't hard for me. It might be hard for her, but it wasn't that we saw so much great talent. I think what was difficult is picking the right people to play those roles. Because there's so much great talent out there, but yeah, we really landed on the very best, I think. Yeah.
Lots about the show, lots about when it's coming out, lots about the cast. Bit about you, Daniel.
Me.
How do you find yourself in this space, sir? Because I always like to speak to that younger audience who want to be you, want to get shows like this on screen. Landscape seems very receptive to these types of narratives now, especially when they're delivered well. You alluded just then to the plethora of talent that you were exposed to that could have been a part of this. I extend that to the plethora of talent that I know are in your position, writers, creators, people who want to bring these types of products to market. So speak about your journey. What was it? Was it I come out as, was you good at school? Was you a good boy? You always know what you wanted to do?
Yeah. I mean, I was all right. I wasn't a bad kid, but I also wasn't the best kid. So I was like somewhere in between the two. But from a young age, I knew I wanted to perform. From a young age, I didn't know I was going to turn to writing, but from a young age, I did enjoy writing as well. And I think, like, if we're talking about, I mean, my journey was, the arts was my thing, and that's where I shone, and that's what I enjoyed the most. So every step I took was always within that performing arts field. And growing up, I just dabbled in everything. So I used to write, I used to do music, I used to act, all these different things. And when I came out of uni, I turned to comedy and I started doing stand-up comedy and stuff like that. And so doing stand-up comedy, it meant that I was partly performing, partly writing. I got myself an agent, and then it kind of developed from there, doing lots of acting, but I was also writing on the side, doing lots of acting work, was reading lots of scripts and thought, oh, I could actually do this. I could actually write these. If they can do this, I can do this. And I just started to develop in that sense. And that has taken me up until now. But like, if I was to give advice to anyone, it would be just experiment with everything. I would say just experiment with everything. I do believe in that 10,000 hours. And I think, like, if you just kind of put yourself out there, you will naturally gravitate to the right people who you can collaborate with, and then kind of get you to the stage, I think.
Lastly, then, what do you hope that people take away from Borders? And when's the next series been slated for, my brother? And you know, we speak things into existence over here. When's the next 6 episodes dropping?
Well, that I still got to finish writing, but hopefully we'll film the second series in the summer. But people have to watch it. You got to watch it, enjoy it. Write, you know, get on all your IMDb's or whatever. Write your lovely reviews, because that's how we get a recommission. So hopefully, yeah. So hopefully, we'll film it this summer if people enjoy it. And what I hope people take from this series, I suppose it's like, first and foremost, it's a piece of entertainment. I want you to enjoy it. Like you said, the cast is so brilliant. And I think even though it deals with a lot of hard-hitting themes, I feel like it's a joyful piece and it's an uplifting piece. And so I kind of want people to go away like with a sense of enjoyment, but yeah, I suppose to learn a little as well, to kind of learn how these institutions kind of operate, learn a little bit about these Black experiences, and hopefully kind of get people talking.
Josh Tedeki?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, he's great, isn't he?
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. You know, his mate in the ends.
Yeah.
I thought he was fantastic as well. I hope his performance doesn't get overlooked. He's brilliant.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes there's a tendency to overplay that role.
Yeah.
I thought he hit the sweet spot and got better and better. Thanks for your time, Daniel. And you know, I hope the show goes down well. I believe it will. You know, I mean, do your thing to promote and support. Is there anything else you want to share with us before we part ways?
No. Just thank you for the support and thank you for the love, and yeah, I really just hope people tune in, watch it. Hope you love it, and yeah, let us know what you think.